allowed me to participate, and I need to figure out what I did to piss off Dr. Bregman, because he asked me to speak about something that 2 years ago I knew absolutely nothing, and now I'm supposed to be an expert, which isn't really quite fair, but I'll do my best. Using my disclosures, this has absolutely nothing to do with my talk today, and this has everything to do with my talk. I'm a surgeon, I'm not a businessman, so please understand that and give me a little bit of slack. What makes physicians happy? Well, there's a lot of things that go into it, and certainly physicians' lives have changed dramatically. And the Rand Health Corporation, the AMA, came out with a very nice study in 2013 that talked about factors. And these are quality of care, electronic medical records, autonomy and work control, practice leadership, collegiality, respect and fairness, work quality and pace, work content, payment income, regulatory professional liability, and health reform. Now, if you talk about quality of care, that's what we're all about, is quality of care. And everything we do should be related to quality of care. And how do we define, or how do we measure quality of care? What are the 6 aims we want to provide quality of care? It needs to be safe. I think everyone can agree with that. It should be effective, or we shouldn't be doing it. It really should be about the patient, not about us. It should be efficient. It should be timely. And it should be equitable. Well, let's take a look at bariatric surgery in my bariatric practice when I first started. And we had a relatively busy primary bariatric surgical practice a number of years ago. And it was certainly safe. I think we all do take bariatric surgery. Certainly we can't argue about the effectiveness of bariatric surgery. But it wasn't very patient-centric, and I'll explain why in a second. And it certainly wasn't very efficient. Timely, with 6-month diet requirements, it's a pain. Is it equitable? Everybody who needs the operation getting it? I think we could argue that a lot of different ways. Let's talk about being patient-centric and efficient. So what happened in our old practice? We had information sessions, 5 a month, different locations around Hampton Roads. Patients went to the wrong places. They came down for their initial surgical consultation at our main medical complex downtown, inner city, difficult access, got to pay for parking, not very convenient. We had 3 or 4 different psychological evaluation providers going out, so they had to go to different spots all over the area. Our physical fitness and nutrition education couldn't be done in our office because it was too small, so they had to go to 2 or 3 different places depending on where those providers were during the day. So nothing made this very helpful. About a year ago, the system decided to invest in a comprehensive weight loss center, which is what we've now got. And I'm going to tell you what that's about very briefly. Number one, we've got surgical and medical weight loss on the same roof. We've got 17,000 square feet. Our bariatrician is a little different, and I love your model, but ours is actually a bariatrician who sees patients and has her own practice. We initially thought that she could see some of our surgical patients. She got so busy so fast, there was such a need that if you call our office today to see her, you can't have a new patient appointment until July of next year, which is ridiculous. So we need another bariatrician. So she's really her own practice within our center. We've got our psychologist on site, bariatric trained, fellowship trained. We've got a registered dietitian who does nothing but bariatrics. We have an exercise physiologist who does nothing but take care of patients with weight problems. And we have a small facility, a very small, a nice gym that patients can go to. It's very non-threatening. All the equipment is bariatric approved. We've got a very large 100-person plus meeting facility education room where all of our patients come for information sessions, for everything. So it really does add to a comprehensive program. We've been very fortunate to have this. What about nutrition? To digress for a second. We talk about all these things to our patients. We talk volumes about it. But do we really make it easy for them? We say, this is what you need. We give them a guide to some of the commercially available products and let them go out and do their thing. And they get to a store, this is what they see. It's overwhelming, the amount of choices that are out there. And frequently, if you go to a GNC, that guy's impressive, he's got nice biceps, but you see the one you want giving your patient bariatric vitamin advice? Probably not. And then they come in for the pre-op appointment. They got the plastic bag, and they pull out 20 different bottles. And they say to you, I've gone all over the city, I've picked up all these different medicines, which ones do I take? You've now got to spend half an hour looking at every bottle, trying to figure out what's good for them. Well, what's a convenient service? It's those intended to increase accessibility, save resources, such as time, effort, and energy, and that's important for our patients, and decrease frustration. And can we do this in the field of bariatric surgery, bariatric medicine? Absolutely. You can have a bariatric retail store within your presence. And that's a picture of our store. We'll talk about it in a lot more detail. So now we look at aims for providing quality care. If you've got an on-site retail presence, whether that be as an individual store or a closet in your back of your office, it now becomes very patient-centric. It's there for them. This is actually good quality medicine. You're giving them what they need, bariatrician or bariatric surgeon approved. It's incredibly efficient. They get it when they're there. They don't have to travel all over the city. So the question is, does a comprehensive weight management center with patient-centric efficient services translate to more business? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. This just shows our information session volume, and you can see that 2014 is in red. We've had a significant uptick this year since we started having our comprehensive center. The number of new patient consults has also gone up, and our surgeries are starting to pick up. We're almost at the 400 mark because we do a lot of other stuff, but our bariatric surgery is picking up. It's about an 8 to 9 month lag because of those preoperative diets. We're just starting the last couple of months to see the significant uptick in our bariatric surgery, and that's where I don't employ a physician. I'm not private practice. That's where I make money for my system, is on my surgeries. So if we go back to quality of care, because that's also something that's important, we think that the retail space definitely improves the quality of care you provide for your patients. And what about your income or your system's income? The business of medicine is kind of scary. We all know reimbursement is not going up, it's frequently going down. Expenses to run any practice are going up, and there we are getting squeezed in the middle. This shows what's happened to physician incomes relative to cost of living increase over the last 10 years. You can see that it's not going up. Well, what do? The current favorite technique to control medical costs is to decrease reimbursements. So something's got to change. If you want to make a living today, you've got to do something else. And the answer, my friend, is all about the ancillaries. This is an article written by an orthopedic surgeon. The orthopedic surgeons are way ahead of us about generating ancillary income. Money generated by the practice outside traditional physician-patient contacts is called ancillary income. And it could be physician extenders, which most of us utilize. We think it's a good thing. Imaging or laboratory services, medical equipment, ownership in a surgery center, which may or may not be feasible depending on where you live. In Virginia, it's not, because we've got some certificate of need issues. You can do legal work, which a lot of people like to do. Or you can be consultant to industry, which now is getting more difficult with some of the laws you've got to disclose and everything. Again, we are way behind. Most general surgeons, and I consider bariatric surgery a field of general surgery, don't utilize ancillaries anywhere near as well as we can. And you see orthopedics, GI, those people are way ahead of the game. I'm going to give an example of an otolaryngologist who happens to be my older brother. His base salary is $360. I did ask him if I could develop this information about him. He is part ownership of a surgery center. He makes $200,000 a year from that. He's got a hearing aid store in his office because they just need hearing aids. He makes $100,000 from that. He has a sinus-specific CT scanner in his office and makes $50,000 from that. So his total compensation is over $700,000, half of which comes totally from ancillaries. The scary thing is he makes less than my other brother, who's a orthodontist in Florida, which is really disgusting, but it's another topic. So what's an ideal ancillary? It's a standalone business or investment that complements your existing core business, but it's not dependent on traditional third-party reimbursement. And this is critical. Third-party reimbursement is what we're trying to get away from here. And if you stay away from that, you're going to eliminate some of the legal issues we're going to talk about in a second. So what about a bariatric retail program? You have two options. One is you can sell products out of a storage area. Now what you have in your office is a nice little fancy display case. This is actually in our office because we have two separate entrances for medical and surgical, and the store is off the medical side. But here's our surgical waiting room. And it can show your menu of services, so to speak. And then you've got a place in the back that someone goes out and gets the vitamins, gets whatever you need, and gives it to the patient. Or you can have the store. I think the store makes sense, but there's certainly expenses associated with that. We'll talk about it. So what's the benefits of selling product out of a storage area? It's really pretty easy. You just need to have a closet. You need to be able to have a little bit of organization. You utilize your existing staff. Your front desk person, the nurse becomes the person who sells your vitamins or your stuff. It's really for a little cost. You've got to buy the product, but that's it. It's really easy for patients. They've got order forms in their office. You can fill it out and give it to the front desk. What about some of the minuses? You really can't offer quite as much. You're limited by what you can sell. It does talk to your existing staff. When we first started our office, our retail space wasn't open, and we sold things basically out of the closet. And it was always hard to find your nurse, your secretary at the front desk because they were out getting product for people. So it really does talk to your staff. It's very directed buying. You're buying very specific things. You don't have much room to expand. It really doesn't encourage volume buying. People like to walk, see, they kind of browse, compare, they pick up. It's amazing how many people walk in for vitamins and walk out with a bag full of stuff. So those are some of the pluses and minuses. And also it's limited to your own patients. Because basically people aren't going to come in, go to your front desk and say, I want to buy some vitamins. It's just not set up for that. It's not conducive to that. What about a dedicated space or a store? You have a sales-oriented staff, which is very, very important because there's different skills to being a salesperson. We'll talk about that a little later. You can offer a lot of stuff, a lot of variety. People browse and buy. You have the ability to sample. We put samples out all the time. We've got samples of all the vitamins. Someone says, I want a calcium chew, but I don't like this. They taste it right on the spot. They don't spend $50 getting a bottle of vitamins. They taste it once and go, wow, this is terrible. You're more profitable. And you can attract potential patients. We've got a number of people who come into our center who, A, we didn't operate on, or B, are just getting to get some stuff for diabetes or whatever, and they become patients. So that's a real plus. Or if they've had surgery somewhere else, they start talking to their friends, go, you need to go to practice, they've got a store. So it's a pretty nice way to do it. There are minuses. You've got to have a retail associate, that's an expense. You've got to have the space, which a lot of people don't have. You've got to have a point of sale, a sales system, and that's a lot of work to set up, to manipulate, to keep track of. There are certain aesthetics of retail space which you just have to be aware of. It's not like having an office. You've got to make it prettier, you've got to fancy your stuff. So what about the cost for a dedicated space? This is our cost. The architecture was about $11,000. Construction was about $75,000, which was about $25,000 more than it should have been. I'll tell you why in a second. The point of sale systems are not inexpensive. This one's $21,000. We got to have some refrigerators. Our retail associate makes $34,000 a year. We paid $13,000 for a retail consultant, which may seem like it's not necessary, but absolutely essential. So the total cost before we even started getting the inventory into our building was about $160,000. So why do you need a retail consultant? This is the original set of plans drawn up by architects, looked at by physicians and all these people, and we're pretty reasonably intelligent people. We showed this plan to our retail consultant, and she looked at us and said, and you guys take care of patients? Here's the problem. We had no wall. We had a space which was open to the waiting room. No security at all. Open space. She goes, people are going to rob you blind. We said, no, this is, she said, people are going to rob you blind. Number two, there's our reception area, and there's the door to our storage area. So every time someone had to buy something, they had to walk out, go in here, go to the store. Guess what? Your unwalled, unlockable store is not completely unguarded. And it was just a recipe for disaster. So we hadn't built it yet, but this was, well, actually, part of it was built. We then had to rechange the entire thing to, also we've got a wall with a door that looked like it's locked, which is very important. We had to move that door over to there, so now the retail component, the retail associate can walk into the storeroom, still see what's going on, come back out, make the sale, and not have a store unguarded. So now that I've told you, and hopefully enticed you, how we're going to do it. This is my book, which I'm going to write after this, called Retail Space for Dummies. Learn how to open a store in your office, provide lots of care, and make lots of money. So what are the steps involved? You've got to decide on types of products, and there are a bunch of them. What brands are you going to buy? What are you going to price them at? What's the layout going to be? How about a point of sale system, personnel, and the legalities? And I end up with that because it's different for everybody, but it's a very important part. If you're going to venture into this, you've got to be aware of some legal issues. Types of product. We have nutraceuticals, which is the new buzzword. A nutraceutical is a foodstuff, food or dietary supplement that provides health benefits in addition to its nutritional benefits. That's a new word out there, the nutraceuticals. We have food products, exercise equipment, and non-food items. And we'll talk about that. So for nutraceuticals, vitamins, multivites, B12, vitamin D, these are things that our patients are taking anyways. We're not providing things that they don't need. This is not just a snake oil. We tell patients to buy this. We tell patients you need to take this every day the rest of your life. Why not make it easier for them? Minerals. Everyone's taking iron, calcium. Protein supplements, a huge part of bariatric practice. Then therapeutics, Devron for those that have gas issues, and then biotin for hair growth, things like that. What about foods? We have breakfast items, entrees, and none of these are refrigerated. They're all put out there. They're all on a shelf. Soups, protein bars, snacks, and drinks. For exercise equipment, we've got some very small weight sets, resistant bands and tubes, some exercise balls, yoga mats, heart rate monitors, pedometers. And the non-foods, main thing about that are the books. Cookbooks, calorie counters, books on surgery. We've got a couple books from this meeting last year. I think one was called The Giant Guide or The Super Guide to Gastric Sleeve or Gastric Bypass. Wonderful books. We do carry those. Patients love water bottles, which you can actually put your own logo on there or your own icon. DVDs, and then some food scales. And that's really more important from the medical side. So what about brands and products? You've got to do due diligence. Decide what you want, and you've got to start researching it. This is, if you're interested in doing this is the perfect place to be. Not here, but this meeting, because every sizable, important food, vitamin, mineral vendor is here. And they want your business. They love your business. So you've got to find out what's out there. You can brand it, which is kind of a nice thing for us. We want something that we could brand with our own names. When people bring it out, they put it down, someone looks at it. When we brand our food, and there's our names on Terra Comprehensive Weight Loss Solutions, so every food item's got our branding on it. We did not want to brand vitamins. I don't want someone taking Dr. Steve's vitamins. It seems kind of cheesy. I want them taking Bariatric Advantage, Bariatric Fusion, whatever the company is. That to me, it's a medicine. But the food stuff you can brand, and this is one of our drinks, and that little vanishing person, it's not a logo, because I was told by my corporate people, we don't have logos. They've got a logo, we've got an icon. And that's our icon. So you can put your icon on there, which again, hopefully become recognizable in the community. People see our bottle out there, they know where it came from. You've got to do taste testing. You have to. We tasted so much stuff. Every single vitamin, every drink, every food item. We brought it in, we had taste testing. We had 3 rules. If everyone liked it, we looked at it seriously. If everyone hated it, we threw it out. If half liked it, half didn't like it, then we put it back on our maybe list. Everyone's got personal tastes, but if everyone hated it, why are we going to give it to our patients? So we tell patients, we've done the hard work. We've taste tested your stuff. We'll tell you what we think is good. We think what is bariatrician approved. And if you really get desperate, you can just beg me for our list. I'll give you a complete list with all the vendors' names. Saves you a lot of time. What about pricing? We need to be competitive. This is a competitive world. A lot of people shop online. This is kind of a list and I took our price list, and I just went online one night, and I kind of tried to get the cheapest price for all these products online. Understand that a lot of things are not available retail-wise. Bariatric Advantage, undereat protein drinks, you can't get those in a retail component. But a lot of these other things are available at Walgreens, at Costco, and we made our prices pretty competitive. Now, you can get them for $1 or so cheaper online, but invariably you're paying for shipping. And so that's the difference. And some people like to have it in hand and walk out. So you've got to price it. You've got to have a business person in your office who knows markup, knows how you do it. The important thing is cost to profit percentages. And again, I'm not a businessman, but you need to look at what are you paying per unit, what are you charging per unit, and the number that's important is called the profit percentage. Okay, and that's just your retail price minus your cost price divided by cost price. And so if you look here, we make a tremendous amount of money on our foods, but we've got to sell a lot of it to make it reasonable. We make not nearly as much on the nutraceuticals, so that's but it's a high price item. So you've got to kind of look at what you're selling and what your makeup is. What about the layout of the store? This is where it's really important, once again, to get a retail consultant, because if you don't, you're going to end up, you're going to end up like that, which is not what you want. The retail consultant, I tell you, they think differently than we do. They tell you that you're supposed to put books a certain way. You're laying flat. That's more appealing than putting them on end. If they just see the side, the spine of the book, it doesn't sell as much as putting them flat. I mean, all these things that we as physicians, thank God, know nothing about, they know about, and they make their money in spades. So you want to have a wall that kind of shows all your stuff. It's got to be attractive. It's got to be nicely designed. It's got to be well lit. You want to have nice central tables that move. They change. They've got nice displays on it. This is one that's set up around Thanksgiving time. It's got nice things, free-flow recipes. We've got a lot of fun stuff like that. You want to have creative displays around. This is saying how you can take a protein drink and mix some things and put things together. Gives people ideas, gets them to try stuff. You want to be patient-centric. We, as most people, have a one-week pre-op liquid diet, high-protein, low-calorie diet. And we give people a list. Go get this, go get this, go get this. We've got a corner, which is your pre-op liquid diet package. And you pick up 14 of any of those items, take 2 a day along with your liquids, and you're done. It can't be any cheaper than that. It's $27, so it's priced competitively. If they want to go out and schlep all over and buy their own product, they can do that. But that's a nuisance for them. And they're worried about doing the right stuff. They walk in after their class, they buy the product, they walk out, they're happy. We have a full liquid shopping list. When patients come from the hospital, they go from clear liquids to full liquids for a week. What's on it? Shows you things that are in our store that are on the full liquid shopping list. So they got all the stuff at home. They come home from the hospital, boom, it's right there. Patient-centric. You need a point-of-sale system. And certainly, it could be as simple as a cash register. You can put money in. But I can tell you, the current point-of-sale systems today are pretty robust. They've got a tremendous amount of information. They can track patients. They can remind patients. They're fast. They're just wonderful. But you've got to spend time looking at it. I can tell you, if you want a really boring presentation, sit through a couple point of sales pitches. They are rude. But get business people in your office that know how to listen to this stuff, but I'll tell you what, it just about killed me. Personnel. So we first thought, we just need someone who's a salesperson. That's all we need. So we looked at this fellow who, not the brightest guy in the world, but he did okay. He got a GED degree. But he had some retail experience. He was a server, he was a Dollar Tree person, very personable, nice guy. We said, perfect, this is what we need for our store. Friendly, nice guy. Not so good. Part of the problem was he was very friendly and got a little distracted. And so one day I took a patient to the store at noon, and he wasn't there. The store's wide open. People went in the store, no sales associate. We go looking for him. Turns out he was a half an hour earlier, was making the rounds, doing something, dropping something off. Heard some noise coming from our exercise room. Found the staff doing a Zumba class, and he thought it was a good idea to do a Zumba class. So once he finished sweating, we promptly fired him and said we need to do something different. I really suggest you get somebody who knows what they're doing. And the last person we've hired is phenomenal. Probably overqualified for the job, but she's phenomenal. She's got a Bachelor of Science degree, she's got a nutrition, food, and exercise background, and we've really, not publicized, but put her out there in the store. She's got a bio card, so if people walk in there, they know that they're talking to someone who's not just a sales associate. She's a nutritionist. I mean, she's got cred, and it's tremendously helpful for us. And she's also great at getting new product, looking at new things. She gave me a list, 20 items long of things I need to look at when I'm here. And that's what you want with someone. So it's important to get someone who's good, and get someone who's not just a salesperson, but also has got some background to make your store a little more credible. And what about legal issues? There's Stark laws, and again, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm supposed to give you a disclaimer that don't listen to anything I say. If you want to do something, don't blame me, and it doesn't work, talk to your own legal counsel. That's what my assistant made me say. So there's Stark laws, which are federal laws, and then there are also state Stark laws, which are also known as mini Stark laws. There's anti-kickback statutes and medical ethics. So Stark laws, number one, prohibits physicians from referring Medicare patients for designated health services to any entity with whom the referring physician or any of his or her immediate family members has any direct or indirect financial relations. So, oh my God, we're going to get violated Stark laws. The nice thing is it only applies to services which are reimbursable by Medicaid and Medicare. And this is not reimbursable. These are vitamins. These are things people are paying cash for. They don't submit insurance claims. So Stark laws have no applicability to a retail space in your store. Anti-kickback statute, similar, prohibits the knowing and willful offer, solicitation, payment, or receipt of any remuneration in return for or in order to induce either any referral items or services covered under any federal health care program. Again, reimbursable items. So from an anti-kickback and a Stark perspective, this is relatively clean. But again, before you open your store and they get arrested and blame me, talk to your own attorneys. Now, where we might have an issue is medical ethics. The AMA's got a position statement on the sale of health-related items from a physician's office. Then there's state. Every state's got their own board of medical ethics rules, which are different for each state. So, according to me to go over them all. The bottom line is that the AMA Ethics Opinion 8.063 says, and I quote, in-office sales of health-related products by physicians represents a financial conflict of interest, risk placing undue pressure on the patient, and threats to erode patient trust and undermine the primary obligation of physicians to serve the interests of their own patients before their own. So we're in violation. The problem is, this is an opinion. This is not law. So we're clean from that standpoint. This is what the AMA says you shouldn't do. You can either agree or not agree. That's your decision. You've got to read that. Throw out metrics, because metrics are important for everything we do. We want to know how we're doing. And certainly, this is about the patient. So before people start yelling at me about being a money-hungry person, I don't get anything from my store. I'm a corporate boy. I am an employed physician, so nothing comes back to me at all. What I do get is increased patients, which is good for my surgery program. So that's helpful. We all want the pie to get bigger for bariatric surgery. It's not going to get bigger. I want the biggest piece of the pie in my neighborhood. And that's what we're all about. So it is patient-centric. It's hard to measure some of these things, but it really is very good for patients. But what about the dollars? Because that's what everyone wants to know. So we're going to take you through a couple of pie charts to talk about quantity sold. And you can see that the food items are by far the biggest sellers. About 90% of what we sell are food products. When we look at total sales, again, because the food items are so inexpensive, it's only about 7% of our total sales. With the nutraceuticals make about 26%. And our profit, we get the most of our profitability from our food items. So again, if you want to do this in your own office, and you want to have just vitamins or nutraceuticals, that's fine. but you're missing out on a very, very big part of the profitability. And that's the food items, which is really hard to do out of that closet. It really needs an office space, a storefront, a browsability area. So if you look at just the number of dollars in profit, it just gives you a sense of, we sell a lot of food, we make a lot of profit on it, but we don't make the most dollars on it. Quantity sold for foods now, soups, breakfast, snacks, and protein bars are probably the biggest. Total sales, we sell a lot more snacks. And the protein bars and snacks make most of the profit. Again, all three shown together, the number, the dollars, and the profit, just to give you a sense of the bars change depending on what metric you pick, whether it's number, dollars, or profit. And now we get to nutraceuticals, protein supplements. That's the biggest one. Therapeutics, multivites are up there. Calcium, multivites, and protein are up there. And we make most of our money on calcium products. Everyone's taking calcium, all the bariatric patients, so it's really good. And again, if you look at the profitability, we sell the most protein, but we make the most money on our multivites and calcium. So how are we doing? We got to know. If you look at our dollars, we opened the store really officially in January, and you can see that each month our gross sales are going up and our profitability is going up. So the system is delighted. We've got a profit margin of about 50%, which again I think is pretty good for a retail component. We're projected to make about $95,000 to $100,000 in profit. So again, if this were my practice, this is not a bad way to supplement my income. If this is the hospital's practice, they make money and they like it. Not a bad thing. I can get things otherwise because we're having profitability on our center, which is a good thing. So to sort of summarize, steps for success. You've got to know yourself. Is this something that you want to do? It takes time. Believe me, it takes a significant amount of time. If you're not going to do it, and you're going to let somebody else in your office do it, they've got to be a business-minded person. We don't think like business people. That's part of the problem we have as physicians. We're not businessmen, we're physicians. Let the business people do the business stuff. Plan ahead. If you're going to move in a year, you're going to expand to a new office, start thinking, maybe I need a retail space. I think that realistically, our retail space is good. But if I had to do it again, I'd probably add another 100 square feet to our retail space. Maybe 200 square feet. Just to get a little more room and maybe downsize some other things. You've got to know the industry. There's a tremendous amount of stuff out there. There's a tremendous amount of stuff coming out every day. You've got to keep up with it. I look at the ads in the magazines now, believe it or not, looking for new products, new vitamins, do this, do that. And I walked to the exhibit hall here. I found a product last year called Perky Jerky, which is actually delicious. We had just some ostrom chewy stuff, which was horrible. I tasted Perky Jerky. It tasted great. Bring it back to my store. We sell Perky Jerky. One of the best sellers we've got now. You've got to be involved like that. You've got to know your customer. What do people want? What are patients looking for? We sent out, before we opened our store, we sent out an email, electronic form to every single patient, said, what are you taking now? What products do you like? What products do you not like? And we use that as a basis to start looking at product. Every patient population is different. You've got to keep good records. You've got to manage your cash, obviously. Manage the practice again. Don't try to run this as a hobby. Don't try to run this when you're doing everything else. If you're a physician and you're operating 4 days a week, and you're lucky enough to have a bariatrician doing all your work for you, so I've got to figure out how to do that. You're not going to run a store. This is a full-time job. I've got a practice manager, and I've got a director of operations. The director of operations runs the store. He gets reports every week from the sales staff. He looks at the percentages. He looks at the margins. He changes things. It's a dynamic process. You can't just do it as a hobby at night when you're getting ready to go to bed. Develop an image. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a store for the world? Do you want to be a weight loss store? Do you want to be a weight loss diabetes store? Whatever you want, you can manage that image. But it's got to be distinctive so people think of you. Control your inventory. Really keep an eye on what's selling, what's not selling. And if it's not selling, get it off the shelves, have a sale. We had a product that wasn't selling very well. We put it out there as a new recipe with something else, and next thing you know, it was all gone. So again, be creative about managing your inventory. You want to buy and price a profit. Don't be ashamed of making money. Your patients are paying for this already. We're not gouging patients. We're not charging 5 times what they can buy at Walmart. We're charging competitive prices. This is a service to our patients. If it's a service to your patients and makes money, that's not a bad thing. Learn from the pros. I am not a pro, but I'm probably more professional. I'm more of a pro than most of you are, so talk to people who have done it before. So a lot of people have bariatric retail spaces in their office. Find out what mistakes we made. We made a tremendous number of mistakes. We tasted all of our really bad food. Talk to us. And no one asks for help. You've got to get a retail consultant because they think differently. But don't don't think you can do this on your own, because I promise you, you can't. If you think you can, you're not going to be successful. So let's go back to physician satisfaction. We talked about quality of care, patient income, and finances. What does the bariatric retail space do for you? It clearly improves quality of care, and I will believe this. Just like we heard earlier, that having a bariatrician improves quality in your office. Absolutely, having a retail space improves care. Patients buy their stuff. Do they take it? We don't know, but they buy it. You see some of your officers whose B12 is low. They walk into the store and they buy some. Their vitamin D is low. They walk in and they get some gel caps. At least they're getting it. That's the first step. And what about payment finances? It definitely improves it. Again, if you're a private practice, hopefully it's money in your pocket. If you're working for a system, you're showing some benefit, and hopefully you can get that back other places. So it is a proverbial win-win, and I think there's, my initial title was retail space, good or bad, or plus or minuses. In my mind, there's really very, very few minuses, and there's a tremendous number of pluses. And with that, I thank you for your time. We'll answer any questions people have.
Hi, Matt Weiner from Detroit. My question is about your profit slide when you state that you have around $10,000 per month in profit. Is that merely the markup of the goods, or does that include the cost of your sales associate, the cost of unused inventory, potential theft, and payback of your capital for your initial build-out?
Okay, so that's a great question. And right, that slide there actually looks at just our profit on our sales. So we've got to include some of that things you talked about. The build-out, we were building a whole big building, so we sort of could roll that in. I think when all is said and done, when you look at your sales associate, it's probably going to be about $50,000 to $60,000 in your pocket. But the store itself makes that money, so that's a great question. Anybody else?